I guess there's the other thing. Rich Campbell wanted to ask Bellular, what major or minor changes would you make right now to save WoW? Because because you didn't get to answer that because I believe he carried on with another point and then he responded to that, so you didn't actually get to answer that yesterday. So what's your
okay?
What's your thoughts?
It's tricky because that's a lot to be. It's a lot to just be like, oh,
yeah,
just make it all good. Which does mean it's quite hard. So I'm trying to work out how where do I start basically. Where do I start? Like, are we talking about quick little small changes that we can make to the game moving forward? Or are we talking about Shadowlands but a bit different?
So, well, I guess the actual phrasing of what he said was, I believe, what major or minor changes would you make right now? So it's kind of my thought of that was, what would you literally, like, if you had complete control, just assume complete control of Blizzard, what would you do right now? What would be the directive number one?
Okay.
That's an action.
Dom shards on a vendor. Domination shards on a vendor. I'd probably increase some of your Stygian Embers, or just do something where you can access the domination shards just on a vendor, so that it is just a little bit more deterministic. Because I think having the RNG on the shards and then also like, do you actually have the the gear to put it in is like, it has not come together to be a super satisfying experience. So I think you could quite easily fix that bit up for the raid gear. If we're maybe going to look into the future and stuff like that, then okay. So VP and JP, I think, need to come in. So we need Valor points that are earned in a vaguely similar way to how you get them now, just that they are used for the acquisition of gear, right? And yes, in a more deterministic fashion, and then using Justice points either for... I mean, one of our ideas was Justice points, but maybe only up to a certain level for upgrades. And then, you know, maybe you have to use VP for further upgrades past that point. So there will be some spreadsheety balancing work to do in that, but I think there needs to be, basically they need JP back in the game. I mean, there needs to be a situation where, you know, say Dakor is coming to help. Let's just say, I really hope it happens, but let's just say tomorrow he decides, yeah, you know, I do want to go do some mythic dungeons with those boys, even though I've already got KSM. Let's just say he says that. Please. No, let's say he says that. It would be cool if at the same time he'd also get a bunch of JP, right? Some Justice points. And then maybe with those Justice points, he could buy some things that, you know, maybe he has an alt. Well, maybe he could use those Justice points on that alt that could help that alt get some catch-up gear or, you know, things like that, right? So I think if we can bring Justice points into the design space of World of Warcraft, there's just a lot more that we can do. Right, there's a lot more we can do, and we can ensure that more content feels good. Because even if you were to get Justice points from Time Walking, that would be another way for the Time Walking weekend to feel interesting and novel to people. And it would be a reason for mains to do it beyond just the 226 box of loot. Right, so that's like just one tiny little thing. But I think that could really make that type of content just, you know, more rewarding. It's that sort of thing where in Shadowlands, I like how we don't have Titan Forging. I like how they've kept the gear more simple. I think that is truly good. But the thing is, in the past when we had systems like that, we had VP and JP, right? And I feel like they need something like that to exist. So that's like a little bit there. And, you know, I think it'd be good if, you know, when you're raiding, you get some VP. And, you know, you actually just make it so that's like PvE progression. Now, it is just that thing where a number of cats are out of the bag with M+. M+ is going to compete with Raid. That's really tricky. You know, it would be cool if you had VP coming from both of those things, and enough so that a Raider is going to cap on it by doing their Raid, and an M+ is going to cap on it by doing M+. But maybe there's like a set the M+ers could buy with it. Or, you know, some stuff the Raiders could buy with it that, you know, is applicable to their type of content. Maybe something like that would, you know, would make sense or be nice. So it's tricky, but basically more things going on there so that things feel a little bit more rewarding. And I actually think that you could do a system like that to the point where it is more rewarding in terms of gear per day of game played than it is right now. But then you remove the Great Vault.
Interesting.
You know, you remove the Great Vault. Like, say, so for the PvP gear. You know, look, what if you remove the Great Vault, but you increase the Conquest cap?
I certainly see where you're going with this.
That's something where players could work towards their goals and it'll be thrown onto an RNG thing less. And I think that would be a healthy change. Now, you could you could have something like for the Great Vault. I mean, certainly, you know, giving some of the casual, maybe the World Questers, people like that, you know, a big bunch of something at the end of the week. You know, that's one idea. Another thing too, like, you know, killing Sylvanas should get you more than 72 gold. You know, killing Sylvanas should give you something big. Like, look, the first time I kill Sylvanas, give me 10,000 gold and 10,000 anima. Because you just killed Sylvanas. Not killed, you know, defeated. I think that would be, you know, yeah, really big. And sure, make that once per account if you really need to make a balance. So that people aren't just, you know, going and, you know, get an alt, power it up, do that in LFR, collect your 10,000 gold. But I think it would be great if it would be interesting. It would be more, it would just feel better to kill her. And ideally something in the way of like a unique reward you get for killing that end boss. I think that would be really healthy. So that's one thing. So Dom Socks, we've talked about those. We've talked about VP and JP. You know, for me, a lot of stuff comes onto content focus, you know, so I think about the storytelling of the game and the reputations. Imagine if for the Wild Hunt, imagine if you do it this way. The Covenant story is very much tied in with Sylvanas and the Jailer and those big problems and the big story of the expansion. And that is actually the main campaign you do while you're leveling up in Ardenweald. Like, Sylvanas is actually in Ardenweald, killing the fuck out of us. Because it's Sylvanas, we should be scared of her. But then, if we want to care about our Drust, and our Gorms, and our Animacones, and all of those things, perhaps that's something you do with the Wild Hunt. And then imagine that the Wild Hunt is doing that quest content, also covering the world quests, and then you get large story beats with the Wild Hunt reputation as you move, you know, from Friendly to Honored. Or maybe, you know, halfway through Revered, you unlock a new big bit of the quest line. A little bit like the patch 5.1 stuff. I think that would be a way better way of framing all of that. That would, just for the, you know, I say casual, but it's not a bad thing. I like casual. I think WoW needs to do better by the casual players. Yeah, and, you know, make it so that there's less mounts. But, you know, you do that for the Wild Hunt. You unlock, you know, just the color tints are on a vendor. Pick the one you want, but make the mount harder to get. You know, I would like to strip things away from the big rares and treasures and put them more into content that you can, like, just go and work at and do and grind in a way where you know you're working towards something instead of just like, I'm going to kill this rare and hope. You know, Asmund was telling me about, you know, his fun time of trying to, you know, he got to kill a rare on every single, like, you know, loot spec or whatever to get the different things, where it's like, that's obviously not super, you know, going to feel super good. There's a bunch there in the storytelling. You know, it's like we need to get rid of the WoW Quest menu thing, and we need to make the dialogue, well, feel like dialogue between our characters. I'd remove that othering language like champion, Mawwalker, that just, you know that it's just a stand-in term because you're playing a video game. Because you can just refer by saying, oh yeah, thanks, I really appreciate it when you helped me out last time. Versus, thanks, I appreciate when you helped me out last time, Mawwalker. The second you add Mawwalker in, I think you lose a bit. You lose a bit with the player relationship. Because if Jaina, if I know Jaina, and I've quested with Jaina for ages, and she starts calling me by a weird title, I'm like, Jaina, we go back. Just say you. Oh, thanks for helping me. That's all it needs to be, because my character already knows Jaina. So there's a bunch of, like, little things there. And then, you move into, like, time walking, making time walking a bit more evergreen, making it to, like, a far bigger system, and starting to work out how we can leverage years of incredible content. And then, I think we need to do stuff back on Azeroth. I think it should just be ongoing that, while we're going through the Shadowlands expansion, there should be Alliance and Horde, content every patch about overcoming Teldrassil and overcoming, Undercity. I think that should be a B-plot that's happening, because that's what's going on in the world. And I think that would help to better connect people to the world. And, if you're helping out the Night Elves, you get some cool Mogs, you get a cool mount, you get a cool title. I wish there was more stuff that Blizzard could reward us with. But, that's the sort of content I would like to see the Root Sister to the world. And then, like, if you're going way, way, way bigger, you know, there's a lot of engineering they need to do. You know, like, make a player housing system, give us a good way to, like, to earn rewards for the player housing. Mount the Skull of Onyxia. Like, just imagine, you know, the player housing system comes out, and they actually tie in all of the game's past raid. Or imagine they do player housing, they also do a time walking thing. And they make it so the player housing stuff comes from the time walking version of all of the content, and time walking's always on. I mean, I'm fairly sure I'd be like, hey, guys, want to get a 10-man together? Go do some old raids, get some cool shit for our houses. Like, that would be really cool. But they haven't done the engineering for that yet, right? They haven't set that up. Same way Zach was talking about, you know, a cool thing to, you know, mount the head of the beast you've slain on your mount. Kind of like Witcher. Can't do that right now. That's tech issues. So, is there a system where you could have little mounting points on mounts? I mean, I don't know, but if they did that, they could do more in terms of rewarding players. So I think and then, you know, other things, what I'd really go for is, you know, making True Shot Lodge be an evergreen part of being a hunter. And then I mentioned this in Allcraft, having class masteries that are just evergreen utility that your class has. And just that stuff you can unlock. And, you know, maybe that can be just unique, flavorful ways to travel around the world. You know, unique little side goals and things. Or even just doing some content to make True Shot Lodge look cooler. There's a lot they could do there. So, like, that's the sort of vibe I'd be going for if, you know, if I was to maybe more properly answer the question that Rich asked me. It's by no means complete. This is, you know, I'd have to actually sit down and properly think about it, but that's my vibe. What do you think?
I don't really think a whole pile on top of that, because that was just a deluge of shit that they should have been doing for years, ostensibly. It's like people are pointing out in chat that there's a lot of what you said is very much what FF succeeds at, what even Genshin succeeds at with player housing stuff. It's just, it's all of these features that players have loved in MMOs and really want in MMOs, but Blizzard haven't deigned to do so. They've just...
Yeah. And like, to bring that further, you know, you mentioned Darkmoon Faire. Make it always be open.
Yeah.
Put a bunch of side games in that. Put a currency in it. Actually, maybe do some gambling or something. You know, just go full into that. Yeah. You know, have more there and have the fair just always be open. And really double down on making it cool. And then, you know, for the events, let's go way bigger in the events. You know, that would be a good reason for people to log in. If they're like, hey, we've revamped Brewfest. It's like 5 times bigger. It's really big now. It's awesome. It feels like a mini patch zone in terms of the things you can do. I mean, bam. People will be coming back for that. So I think that's another sort of side project they should have going on. But it's that sort of thing. It's like they're so focused on just that like little bit of the end game that the broader big shared world thing kind of falls by the wayside sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's fundamentally like I think that's where a lot of the quiet dissent would be, or that, maybe not quite the censor, but like the quiet leaving, the quiet kind of dissatisfaction. The people who don't log in and go, well, the people who log in and go, there's no one really on, or, you know, there's people on, but, you know, 5 of them went off into a dungeon. I was the 6th. I logged on a bit late. What'll I do? Do I pug something and like throw me off kilter in terms of, you know, if 5 people hopped into a dungeon and then you hop into a dungeon 15 minutes later, they'll be in a new one by the time you're done. There's nothing for you to just go, oh, well, I guess I'll kill time by doing something. There's nothing meaningful anyway.
Yeah.
Because the only thing to do is world quests or old content that has a lockout. That's not really, you know, it feels like you're doing old content as opposed to, you know, it being revitalized. Because the one thing that, I mean, if we're going to continue riffing on this stuff, I feel like the idea of, oh, raid starting in 20 minutes, what can I do for 20 minutes? Now, I think a lot of people answer, you know, go for a walk, go grab a snack, go grab a drink, sit down, open YouTube for 20 minutes. Where if World of Warcraft really wanted to feel like a world, it would be, oh, well, if you go back and run, you know, Blackwing Descent for the 5 millionth time.
Yeah.
You know, even if, you know, that's just a joke how much I've done it, but like, if you go back and, you know, you've cleared it, then you get a box of many things but for old content, and you kind of feel like, oh well, I can make progress. I can earn a currency from old raids that will upgrade this box that'll let me go faster in old raids. The kind of thing of turning all that old content into something that feels useful and meaningful without even a whole bunch of effort on top of it.
Yeah.
Literally just, you know, even if you remove a lockout, then going for Invincible, say, isn't something you do like an hour or so every week or something like that. It is, you know, it's something you can sit down and do for an evening before raid. So like, as an example for us, like I'd say I get home about 5:30 or so. Raid starts in what, 75 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, spend 30 minutes, go to the auction house, get prepared, read up whatever we're doing, get people together, etc. But then I was like, oh, what'll I do? I guess I'll go target a thing and farm it out. Whereas like, you know, not to harp on about FF, but it kind of has that with roulette stuff, that are all these kind of small things you can just do that give you your poetics, which can be, you know, you can buy whatever with them. You can buy alt gear, you can buy gear, you can get all the stuff.
I guess the poetic, that's like JP, kind of.
Poetics is roughly enough to JP, or it's like one step below JP almost.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you've got at max level, you've got your VP and JP equivalents, but then you've got poetics, which are like you earn them for basically doing any kind of content at any level. So you can spend it on like low level gear as well to catching up. So it's let's think of a term that could actually be used for that. It's like valor points, justice points, and then I don't know what's lighter than justice. Slap on the wrist points. I don't know, something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be great. So a VP JP could really help, and then even if you called it like change the name of the time walking currency, something that just feels a bit more evergreen, and work out what to do with that. Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. I'd love to have a little farm.
Yeah.
I'd love to have like farming as a skill.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, farming is not farming the land, farming old stuff, farming.
Oh no, I meant farming.
Oh, you mean farming literal, like?
Oh no, dude, I actually mean farming.
Like you want to go and buy Sakana of Rice and Ruin, get some rice farming on the go, like, but in World of Warcraft.
Sure thing. Sure thing.
Yep.
You know, you have like little homestead, little farm. Like, oh, cool. I'll check in, manage my farm.
Yeah.
And you know, if you do that, you know, make that, okay, probably have to be instanced or something. But you know, you get larger and larger, and then you're like, have, you know, your little bit of side farm progression. You know, you keep that going. That's just like a really cool thing to exist in the game.
Even
that's definitely wishful thinking. But I think the mop one was, I wish I did it more at the time.
See, I was actually just about to say that. Why isn't the Half Hill farm used? Why can't we bring seeds from other expansions over to the Half Hill farm and grow them there? Like, it doesn't have to be amazing, it doesn't have to be incredible in any way. It literally just has to be, oh yeah, let's just go. You know, I've still got my Hearthstone set to the shrine, I'll fly over and maybe I'll get some stuff from it. It's the kind of thing where it's those small touches, it's those small little things that just kind of make people want to go, oh, you know, I've got something to do that feels vaguely meaningful, instead of world quests, which are soup or sludge or whatever you want to call it.
Soupy sludge. Maybe. Yeah, big. It's interesting. Look, it's that thing. Azeroth's a great world. All this stuff's super cool. We all like it a lot. It would not be that hard to enact very big change. And it's, you know what? It's that thing. WoW doesn't actually need to have any of these things down perfectly. I think if it just moves a little bit in that direction, people will be so, you know, just so happy, right? They'll be happy that they feel understood and they feel like it's moving in that better direction. Because I think that's, you know, it's kind of funny. Their plot's been about killing hope for a long time, and they themselves have done that a bit, you know, in the sort of just being a bit stonewalled in terms of communications. You know, a lot of times we do get communications, it's them saying like, no, man, the thing we did, we actually were happy with how it turned out, even though a lot of the more vocal players are not particularly happy. Which, you know, they keep on saying that, and it's like they could have numbers that we don't know about, but certainly I looked at some of the Mythic Plus numbers, they ain't great. You know, looking at some stuff about who's returned in PvP, and there's some not particularly great numbers there. Yeah, so I don't know if I believe him too much, that it's not just, you know, a bit of PR speak where they kind of can't admit that something was a big problem. It's hard to say, but Point is, people want WoW to be so good that it doesn't have to be perfect. They just need to feel heard, and it's moving a little bit in the right direction. I know there's a lot of people at Blizzard, like I know for a fact, like for an actual fact, that with all of the things the community's been angry about, there have been a lot of people at Blizzard who have been angry internally. Now, unfortunately, they were either not heard or, you know, they were kind of just rolled over and they did whatever they did. But, like, it's important people know that there are loads and loads of people at Blizzard who do actually agree, you know, who did not want Covenants to be the way that they were. You know? There are loads of people at Blizz. We just have to, you know, my hope is that the community talking will give those people a bit more credibility, because in any sort of retrospective view of things, the people in the WoW team will be like, okay, we really thought that this design was the one to go for. Didn't work out that well, and Billy over there actually did call it before any of us. You know, the internal preach, right, who calls the, you know, calls the issue early.